You are listening to the Cattle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call Podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your overly caffeinated host, and with me, as always, is my partner,
Rocco. Overly caffeinated? We're just before we were recording this, he's half asleep. How the hell are you overly caffeinated?
Well, to be fair, I do get myself to a point where I over-caffeinate and then don't sleep. So it's probably not a good thing, but we all have our little issues. So, but yeah, I tell you, I could use some more coffee. I actually just finished my cup. But that's all right. We're good. All right, Rocco.
Now he's going to get cranky, people.
Now I'm going to get cranky because you insulted me and you told people I was yawning. I will make you suffer through the engineering joke of the week. There's no getting away from this. All right, Rocco, you ready for this?
Yep.
What did the electrical engineer call his firstborn male child?
What did he call him?
Watson. Huh?
Oh, God.
That's absolutely awful, isn't it? Just one of the worst. See if we can just keep making more painful every week. That's my job. All right, let's get into the show here today. All right, folks. So, look, one of the big things that you all are going to, or you probably have already seen on your social media feeds these days, is the concept of life hacks, right? Simple features and functions or processes in your daily life that you didn't know you needed until you see them in action and you go, really? My whole life, I didn't know I could do that. Look, the one that threw me into a tizzy when I saw it is it's the aluminum foil boxes. I found out that I have been using this thing wrong my entire life. Did you guys know that there are tabs on the end of the foil box that you're supposed to push in to keep the roll from pulling free when you're tearing off a sheet?
I had no clue. No.
Yeah.
How many times does the damn roll fall out of the box?
I'm saying 1,000 times. I drop it in the spaghetti sauce. It's hitting the floor and unrolling. I make a complete mess every time, right? Because nobody ever showed me. I had no idea, right? So I felt like a complete idiot thinking about how many times I pulled that roll out of the box. I think that concept of little changes and simple hacks applies to technology in the design build space as well, right? And now look, I know when we talk about when you're talking about software, right, the word hack, it's usually a scary one. But today I want to talk about the positive life hacks, we'll call them today, that we can use for different systems and why it's important that everybody take the time to look into those, right? In particular, I want to talk about simple configuration setups that you can do in your current software that can quite literally improve the way that you guys work on every single job. Rocco, we talk with clients a lot about better configuration for their software systems. Do most people realize kind of like the big impact that configuration changes can make on their profitability, or is it something you find we need to really explain to them?
It's a complicated question because I think at some level they expect it. Do they see it as the word configuration? No, but a lot of times people come to us where it's like, this product's got to work better for us, That's why they check out our YouTube videos and listen to our podcasts, because they're looking for better ways. I don't know that they realize that it's really a configuration of the tools that they already have. I don't know that they necessarily look at it that way.
But I just want to clarify, is there somebody actually listening to this podcast? I thought this was just you and me. I didn't know we actually had listeners.
Listen.
Okay, that's good. You don't listen to me. This is the only time you listen to me is when we're on a podcast. So, all right. I want to stress here in this conversation, right, that we're using the word configuration and not customization. And that's not just semantics, right? There is an important distinction that I think a lot of people miss. Customization, right? That is something entirely new. It's built from scratch to address a very specific need. And that can be really time consuming and expensive, and it requires a lot of training and ongoing support to keep, the custom tools and your staff kind of up to date when technology changes. Configuration, on the other hand, this makes use of the built-in processes in the software that you guys already have, right? We're just adjusting them to make your workflow go faster and easier. And I think, the big benefit here is that when the software that we're, configuring, if it updates or it changes, right, the developers almost always ensure that the tools and the processes you've configured are still compatible with the new release. They'll continue to work, right? So there's very little chance of losing that functionality, or having to pay somebody to come in and rebuild a custom program or retrain your staff on how to use it, right? These configuration structures are the life hacks that I want to talk about today. I mean, sure, your staff knows how to use their software already, right? But are they using it effectively and efficiently? And you may think so, but more often than not, they really aren't. Look, I'd have sworn on a stack of Bibles that I knew how to properly use an aluminum foil box up until last year. I'm not an idiot. Well, despite what Rocco always says. And I've been using these things for over 50 years. So I was pretty confident in my skills there. Unfortunately, right, the human condition is that you don't know what you don't know. And just because people have done something for a long time, it doesn't mean that they're doing it the best way possible. So, Rocco, right, when we're doing demos for configuring tools and processes for different programs like Bluebeam and Procore and so on, are most people surprised to see what we can configure those systems to do, or do you think that they're pretty well versed in their capabilities, they just haven't gotten to it?
No, I think they're surprised. I mean, but again, at some level, that's what they're paying us for, right? To help them find better ways, right, to become more efficient and more productive. But yeah, they're certainly impressive. That's what you get paid the big bucks for, Jim.
I learned too. We have listeners and we get paid here. I didn't know either of those things. I'm learning big so much bucks today. So look, folks, the simple truth, I guess, is that a lot of us are undertrained on the software that we work with every day, right? And this is particularly true in the construction space, right, where a lot of the construction management systems are just thrown at us, and we need to figure things out on our own, on the fly, as we're working. I think the design side of the house is a bit more conscientious about training, right? I think since like the CAD and the BIM systems, they're so much more complex. But even there, the tools and the standards are almost always the brainchild of your one really good CAD person, right, who taught themselves, and they put together some processes that seem to work out pretty well, and those become the company standards, right? And now the entire firm kind of falls victim to the things that the standards originator, whoever that was, things they just didn't know. Right? And I'll say this, right? In over 30 years in this industry, I have never worked with a client, no matter how skilled they were, that didn't look to at least one of my configuration recommendations for them and say, "Oh man, I had no idea we could do that." And look, it's not that I know everything about everything. I actually do, but we're going to pretend I don't. But no, really, I do. I have a really good staff of people, right? And I've got a lot of people who know a lot of different things. And when we all focus together, right, we can bring a lot of functionality to the table that's just making everybody's job easier. The key is looking at the software and looking at the processes that you guys already have in place today, and using all of the built-in functionality of those tools to make sure that you're doing things, the fastest, simplest, smartest way that you can. right? You know, if you guys are working in CAD or BIM, you want to look at your templates, right? And you want to look at your tool palettes to make sure they're all, you know, properly configured and set up. You know, if it's Bluebeam, you want to make sure that you're using, you know, smart tools and quantity linking, right? And for Procore or Construction Cloud, right, you want to make sure you've got, you know, templated projects and action plans and folder structures and fully configured cost catalogs. There's all kinds of things in each one of these, right? And we're going to get into what you can do with all of those in kind of the second half of today's show. But for now, I just want you guys to realize that there's just an absolute ton of automation and cost savings that are available to you just by properly configuring these systems. And honestly, we find that almost every single client that we talk to, you're missing out on that. You're just working with the stuff right out of the box, and that's not the way to do it. And that's what we're going to get into in the second half of the show. So stand by, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. Hey, everybody. This is Jim and Rocco with Zentech Consultants. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the training options that we have available here for you guys at Zentech Consultants. We offer public training classes as well as private custom courses for all of your software and design needs. So, Rocco, why don't you tell the folks what kind of training we offer and how do they reach out to us to get it going for them?
Yeah, Jim, we cover everything from Bluebeam to Autodesk to Microsoft to BricsCAD to civil site design training and beginner through to advanced level topics. Like you said, both public and private courses. If you got a group and want to run a class specifically for your team, we can help you. So just feel free to hit our website. We're at zentechconsultants.net. That's ZENTEK, or you can give us a ring, 866-824-4459, or even drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
There you go, Zentech Consultants for all of your technology training needs. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're talking about configuring your current software systems to run more efficiently and earn you much more money, right? Kind of the software version of life hacks. Right? And in this half of the show, I want to focus on some of the most popular design and construction systems and the areas where we see clients pulling the most benefit from detailed configuration setups. You know, that means, you know, CAD systems like Civil 3D or Revit, you know, Bluebeam and Procore and Autodesk Construction Cloud. Those are what we're going to work or focus on here, rather. Don't get me wrong, right? You can get a ton of benefit by configuring, you know, Microsoft or Google tools, right, and others like that. But that's back end stuff, and that tends to bore a lot of the people in our world, in the design build world. So we're going to focus on the tools that I know you guys are using every single day. All right, so let's kind of start with the design side, right, and the CAD and BIM systems first. Look, the first thing I'm going to say here is I have never met a design firm who is fully happy with their current CAD standards, no matter how well developed they are. There is always room to improve these. And I'd say that better than half of the people that we talk with think that their current CAD standards are actually more of a hindrance than a help in getting their job done. And it's not because they're bad or they're wrong or somebody did a terrible job setting up. But I think it's because they're very often overly detailed and very manual in the processes, right? People spell out very long, detailed, step by step. This is the way we do it, and it must be done in this order and in this way. And that can really hurt you more than help you, right? You want to simplify. Let me give you guys an example, right? So we recently worked with a nationally recognized design firm on their CAD standards. And the very first thing that we did was eliminate their extensive file and folder creation and naming process, which was like a 30-page section of their CAD manual. We eliminated the entire thing, right? And they've been using that for over 20 years. And we replaced it with a pre-built folder structure where all of their standard files that they need for any particular type of job, we had one for survey and one for civil and one for some, architectural setups, right? Already built. already named. All of the files were already referenced together, and they were just ready to open. They just copied it over. They were ready to open and start work with one click of the mouse. Right? The end users, the day-to-day users, when we rolled it out, they lost their minds at the time savings. They were so happy when we rolled this thing out. They were telling us they had been spending 2 to 3 hours per job to do those things, name things and get them set up. That's just before they could do anything, right? And they could do this in like 10 seconds. Same company, right? Same thing with their title blocks and their standard details. We integrated those into tool palettes, right? And we made use of the Autodesk Sheet Set Manager for them to like automate page layouts and detail insertion. And it was just a massive, massive time saving on every single project that they're ever going to do moving forward. Right? And these types of features, right? Things like that are very easy to implement in, Civil 3D or Revit or AutoCAD or BricsCAD or any other CAD or BIM system you're working with. Doesn't matter. You need to work with someone, in my opinion, outside of your company, someone who isn't tied, right? Because they helped develop them or have been working with them for years. They're not tied to your current methodology, or even if they're okay with the change, right? You want to make sure that you're not trying to put this configuration work onto someone who is so busy with billable work they can't afford to spend the time to go out and research and look at best practices and new techniques, right? To get you the best processes and configurations put in place. So Rocco, let me ask you this, right? Where in terms of CAD standards configuration, where do you think it falls kind of on the level of importance for our architecture and engineering clients when you talk to them?
It's definitely of importance to them. It's just it involves change, right? And nobody likes change. And even if you set pilot teams, right, or just senior level people to make decisions, we often find that there's not always agreement. So it takes time and patience. And, if you think that you're going to be able to call us today and it's all going to be done in a month, it's not, because you have to have internal buy-in from the budget standpoint and just from the collaboration standpoint. So it's definitely a topic of importance, but there's a lot of complexities to it.
Yeah, it's never easy to get everybody on the same page with that. There's a lot of personalities and a lot of personal regret or arguments or old grudges that kind of come into play when you get into those meetings some days, which is always interesting. So look, for people in the construction space, the construction management systems like, Procore and Autodesk Construction Cloud are a vitally important arena for configuration. Look, when these big enterprise level construction management systems are rolled out, everybody gets training on like how to use the basic tools, right? And the developers come in and they'll show you how to, this is how you do this and this. Here's how you start a new job. Here's how you do a contract and an RFI and add a change order, right? And then they just give you a link to a whole bunch of videos and say you can learn with that. And look, they're good. They'll even help you guys with like bulk import, right? If you got a big client or vendor database and you got cost codes and so on, they'll help you import all of that and get it configured the first time right out of the box. But that's about it, right? If you want to adapt these systems to work the way that you do, that is 100% on you, right? And honestly, I'll tell you this, I think that is where a lot of user frustration comes into play around these big construction management systems. Right out of the box, they're designed to work the way that the developers think you are working, that most people are working. At least that's what they assume, right? And if they're not configured properly, right, people have to completely change the way that they've worked for years just to even get basic results out of these CM systems. So something that, people are like, I can just go into Excel and I send an email and it's done in 30 seconds. Well, the out of the box, construction management system takes me an hour and a half to do the same thing. There's no benefit, so they're going to fight you. And it doesn't need to be that way, right? These systems are highly adaptable and they can be configured to work the way that you want them to, instead of you changing the way that you expect your people to work. Again, same problem, right? The problem is that you need people who have a solid background in configuring these systems to make all that happen. And look, it doesn't matter whether it's, you have an internal hire and someone who's really good with those systems, or if you work with a consultant like Zentech, there needs to be a solid configuration effort put into these construction management systems, or you're just going to get a crazy amount of pushback and complaining from your end users who feel it's just slowing them down every day. If you want the ROI that these systems promise, right, the return on investment, you really need to plan on getting somebody to configure them properly before you roll it out. Or if you guys listen, if you've already rolled it out and you're frustrated, get someone to help you and work on a better configuration ASAP. Rocco, in terms of like Procore and Autodesk Construction Cloud, those clients, how many of them come to us because their users are frustrated and they're actually considering dropping those systems?
Yeah, it happens more often than you would think, and there's already, they come to us at a point where it's like there's already been a lot of time and money put into the products, And so a lot of times we're talking them off the edge, and then it's like, well, slow down, horsey. Like let's see what we can do to help you out, because you've invested that time and money, and to get to your point of configuration, let's talk about what could be done to make you more efficient and more productive, and to get everybody on the same page. So that's what we see.
Yep, no, that's what I see too. So, all right, folks, I saved my favorite, quote unquote life hack here for last today, and that is Bluebeam Review. Folks, this system has a set of built-in configuration tools and processes and systems like no other software I've ever seen. We do about, I don't know, I guess probably about 50% of our work here at Zentech, building custom, I don't want to call it configuring tools for contractors and GCs and building product manufacturers to help them with their, their quantity takeoff and their markups and their layout and their, punch lists and their RFI items, all using Bluebeam. And look, tools like these can be linked, right, directly to your current Excel workbooks for estimating, or if you're using Excel to track issues or pricing and linking. All of that can be handled right inside of Bluebeam itself or in the Excel workbook, whichever one you want, right? And the key here, I think, is understanding if you're using a system like Bluebeam, right, for simple markups, right, and you're doing the occasional area measurement, or you're taking the dimension of a door once in a while, you are missing out on 95% of what that system can be doing for you. And look, getting back to our point here today, right? Does it do that right out of the box? No, it doesn't. It needs to be configured and structured to your company's workflow processes. But once that's done, right, you can easily double productivity for people when it comes to these kind of functions within your company. We did a custom estimating tool set just a couple of months back, right, for a small fire alarm company. Nothing dramatic, but here's the key, right? They went from taking 2 to 3 days to do an estimate to literally knocking them out with way better accuracy in under an hour, right? Using Bluebeam. Proper configuration of any software system can have just a staggering return on investment for companies, right? But, like we've been talking about, they often don't know how to do that on their own, right? So, a lot of times what they wind up doing, because they don't know how to do it on their own and not sure who to talk to, they'll go to their software vendor, right? The VAR that they bought the software from. And what happens here is that the answer is like, oh yeah, it'll do what you want, but you need to buy another plugin. Oh yeah, that you have to buy a second software system. Or oh, that module is a little extra money. Or oh, you have to pay us to train your guys. That's the problem. And 9 times out of 10, it's a bunch of BS. Most times when we are working with people here at Zentech, we are usually recommending that people drop some of their software systems, right? Because there's a ton of overlap in the capabilities between the software systems, right? It's better to focus on just whichever one of those systems helps you the most and configure it to work for you. And that helps to offset the cost of configuration, right, by dropping software licenses that you don't need. Look, it's not uncommon when we sit down and we talk to construction folks or a design firm that, we start looking at what to do and they're like, oh, we've got licenses of Adobe Acrobat, and then we've got a drawing markup tool, and I've got a cloud hosting system, and then I have this other program that compares files for me. Oh, and then we have a separate estimating software and a half dozen others, right? And you think about that, all of those systems are being licensed for 10, 15, 20, 100 employees, right? Where Bluebeam, as our example here today, Bluebeam does all of that and a lot more when it's properly configured, right? And you get the setup cost for configuring it that way. It's completely defrayed by dropping all of those other software licenses, right? And then once this is set up and configured and working the way that you want it to, these systems now earn profit, right? With better efficiency on every job, more and more for the rest of eternity. See? You guys see all the good things that we talk about and teach you here on the Cattle Call? There you go. Rocco, you want to add anything else?
No, I don't think so. Just keep listening.
Just keep
They
listening.
are listening, Jim. I'm telling you, they are listening.
I'm glad somebody's listening. All right, folks. Thank you for listening. And with that, we'll get out of here and we'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.